Hi, I'm Matt. I create videos about motorcycling, camping and travel, which can be viewed on my YouTube channel, Classic Rides.
Hi, I'm Simon Josie. Welcome back to the podcast. In today's episode, I'm speaking with Matt McFadden, creator of the Classic Rides channel on YouTube. I was really happy to have the opportunity to speak with Matt, as his carefully crafted videos really resonated with me when I first stumbled across them maybe 18 months ago. If you're not already familiar with Matt's work, I encourage you to check out Classic Rides on YouTube. His videos have a signature aesthetic and pacing. Before we jump to my chat with Matt, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank those listeners who have already sent feedback and encouragement after publication of episode 1. If you have time and the inclination, please consider rating or liking the podcast in your favorite podcast app or on YouTube. This will help other listeners find the podcast. I've established a presence for the podcast on Instagram under the handle real.riders, on Blue Sky under the handle Real Riders Podcast, and also as @RealRiders on the platform formerly known as Twitter, but now rebranded X. I'll be posting whenever new episodes of the podcast drop, so please do repost, reskeet, and retweet to help get the word out there about the podcast. Right, please now enjoy my discussion with Matt. Hi, Matt. Welcome, and thanks for joining me on this episode of Real Riders. How are you doing?
Oh, great. Thanks, Simon. How are you?
Yeah, super. Matt, you have a YouTube channel called Classic Rides, where we can find over 100 videos dating back to 2011, though the vast majority of your YouTube content began appearing after August 2020 and coincided with the arrival of a Royal Enfield Interceptor 650. Not long after that, which is maybe a story in itself, your Triumph Bonneville T120 appeared, and it's largely been the centerpiece of your filmmaking since. I always like to start off by asking about your origins in motorcycle filmmaking. I know from your website that you're a photographer and a digital artist, and I'm assuming your work with still images came before the motorcycling and the filmmaking. But if we consider the motorcycling and the filmmaking alone, which came first? Was it the motorcycling or the filmmaking?
Well, the motorcycling came first, and the filmmaking sort of followed not too long afterwards, just because I was dipping my toes into Instagram, and Instagram at that point was trying to be like TikTok, and there's no real grand plan behind it, but I just decided that I was just going to make some little films of some of the rides that I was doing. I think part of me wanted to show my partner Jen those rides, because she was mortified that I got a motorbike, and I think I just wanted to show that I wasn't riding like a maniac, and I wasn't going to necessarily kill myself on the bike, because I wanted her to see that I was riding like slowly and stuff. And then I plopped those initially onto Instagram, and it was funny because my Instagram account at that point had been for photography, and had gained no traction whatsoever. You know, I could put like a picture on that I was really proud of and get 0 likes, 0 anything. The minute I started putting stuff on about the motorbikes, it just shot through the roof. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll do this instead then, because this is what people, seem to be drawn to more than my actual photographic work. So, and then it just went from there. And I just, once I already had a YouTube channel, well, I had an account with YouTube from like 2011, which I was using for work, actually, just making private videos for people doing like tutorials on how to do this and that and the other, but never public really. And I just thought I'll just plonk those videos on YouTube and see what happens. And it turns out some people like the videos, and then I just continued with it really, and tried to get a little bit better at the filmmaking side of things.
With your still photography, before you got into motorcycling yourself, had you done any still photography of motorcycles?
No. I mean, other than I've always been into classic cars, and going to sort of big classic car shows, and there's always bikes there, and I've always been into motorbikes, but I'd never really photographed them before, like actually gone out of my way to photograph them. If they happen to be a nice bike, I'd take a picture of it, but I didn't go specifically to photograph motorbikes, so not really, no.
Would I be right in assuming that you haven't had any formal education in filmmaking, or is that a wrong assumption?
Oh, none at all, no. not even in photography. And I've been a professional photographer for 10 years. So yeah, it's absolutely zero training. Other than YouTube, which, to be quite honest, you can learn anything on YouTube these days.
Yeah, I'm hearing that a lot, and yeah, I believe that for sure. The Bonny is, as I mentioned, it's become a centerpiece of your filmmaking. So tell us about it. You've had it since 2020, August 2020, or no, was it, I think, October 2020? Yeah.
Yeah.
And apart from the early Interceptor 650 rides, and I think you did a ride out on a Triumph Speedmaster one day when your bike was in the shop,
Yeah.
and also recently in the summer of 2023, you made a 2-part Snowdonia motorcycle camp trip in which you had a couple of bikes. One of them, which was a Honda or a Yamaha, I can't remember.
It was a Yamaha Tracer 9 GT.
Right. So apart from those, everything else you've done has been with the Triumph Bonneville. It's had a starring role. Has that been deliberate, the fact that it's very much a centerpiece of the videos?
Yeah, I think that bike for me is it's what a motorbike should be. And I know it's a trope that I won't be the first to have said this, but if you ask a kid to draw a motorbike, they'll draw something that looks like a Triumph Bonneville, big round headlight, teardrop tank and wheels. And that's my idea of what a bike should be. So, as much as I like other bikes, I still haven't seen anything that looks that inflames my heart more than the Bonneville, because it just looks perfect. To me, it looks perfect. And also, it's my bike, so it's easy to go make videos with it because I can just take it out whenever I want. And I'm not in the privileged group of people that get press bikes, so I don't get offered lots of different bikes from manufacturers to ride. So I really only have the one choice, but it's the choice I would make anyway because it happens to be my bike. So. And usually, if I'm riding another bike, it's as you notice, it's usually because my bike is otherwise engaged. It's either in the shop or for the camping video that I did, where I ended up riding the Yamaha. It was because my best friend lives abroad, and for one reason or another, he couldn't get insured to hire a bike in the UK. So the thing was that I had to hire the bike whilst he rode my bike, and I got him insured on my insurance. It was all a bit convoluted, but it was just, I would have ridden my bike, but he was using it. So yeah, I don't know. I like the Bonnevilles. I think that it's just a traditional British brand. It's sort of, it fits with the channel as well, because I wanted the channel really to be, a British chap riding a British bike around the British countryside and stuff, because a lot of these channels are always like, they're going abroad and going to like, Europe, as though that's the only place that good motorcycle riding can be done. And I don't know, people often sort of overlook their own backyards a little bit. And I think the UK is a great place to ride a bike. There's some spectacular places, and I think I just wanted to showcase that a little bit and make it a bit of a sort of like a theme like a Britishness sort of theme, which I think foreign audiences appreciate that more than actually British people do, but it's something that's helped sell the channel a little bit. I mean, for example, my second biggest audience is actually Japan.
Uh-huh.
And I think because they buy into that whole British thing. So that's helped in some ways, I think, propel the channel on a little bit. That I try to keep it sort of within the British theme. Not because I'm like xenophobic or anything. It's just it just helps sell that particular sort of brand of the channel.
And it extends beyond the bike itself to the gear that you wear, your helmet, your gloves, the bags that you put on the bike. It's a sort of a complete aesthetic, isn't it? I mean, I'm sure that's all deliberate, but I think that's the completeness of it is quite appealing. It seems completely thought out and well formed. Is that what you've been aiming for?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the aesthetics are very important to me personally. I want to be able to stand back and look at something and be like, oh, that looks nice. Probably more so than if it performs well. I want to know that it looks good. It's been a happy coincidence that the things that I actually like the look of have also fallen in within that British brand category. So, for example, like one of the jackets, well, in fact, both my main jackets, so one's a Belstaff, and one is an Ashley Watson, are both British brands. And but it just happens that I actually really like those jackets, and particularly something like the Belstaff. It's sort of seen as a bit of a fashion item, but I like the style of it, and I like things to be authentic. There are cheaper options that look like a Belstaff, and I'm always of the mind of I'd rather just buy the actual thing than buy something that looks a bit like the thing that I really want. And with the Ashley Watson jacket, that's just a style. It's just a very stylish piece, and it's also AAA safe as well. So it's on a motorbike, it's fantastic because it's as safe a jacket as you can buy, and it just looks good as well. And it's similar with like I said, with everything. It's a happy coincidence that the things that I like happen to fall within that sort of brand of Triumph, Britain, the countryside. It all kind of works. Which is not really, I've not really planned for that. It just happens to be the way it is, and that's the things that I like. So,
and it certainly seems popular, the concept, because having seen the comments to many of your videos on YouTube, people are often referring to the bike and how beautiful it looks, and so it seems to be resonating with the audience out there as well.
Yeah, people seem to like the Bonny. It's a pretty bike.
Yeah. Switching over a little bit to the art of filmmaking, and to me, and this is something that I maybe bore people with, but I'm kind of fascinated with the technology that we have at our fingertips now and what that's allowed us to do, particularly in the filmmaking space. But for you, what's been critical in terms of the technology that we now have available for you to sort of bring your vision to YouTube to an audience?
I think honestly the GoPros are the image stabilization, because I think without how good that's gotten, you wouldn't be able to do the videos on a motorbike, because it would just, I did experiment for a while with like attaching a gimbal to the motorbike and having a camera, because I wanted to get a shallower depth of field for that more cinematic look, and it was horrendous. It just didn't look good at all. It really sold home to me how good the stabilization is in a GoPro. So I think just on a technical basis, that's incredible what they've actually managed to do. But when you, like I say, when you go and try it with an actual normal camera and a gimbal, it's what they've managed to do in such a small form. I mean, admittedly, there is the trade-off of you can't really adjust the depth of field on it, which is a shame. But it's as a rugged piece of equipment to make video with, it's absolutely fantastic. So I think that again, it's a piece that everyone can buy. They're relatively cheap, and I think it's kind of overlooked how good they actually are. Like in terms of the brains that's gone into making those is it's astounding, really.
And in terms of your gear locker, is there something missing? Or what's next on your list of things that you must have or would dearly love to have to enhance or help you with the filmmaking?
Well, I think for me, I would really like, the next thing that I want to get is to upgrade my off-bike camera, because on the bike I use GoPros, and then off the bike I use a little Fuji X100F, which is not a film camera at all. I bought it because I was sick of lugging around the studio DSLRs everywhere. So I would like to upgrade that, because I love the quality of the photos and the film that comes out of the Fuji, but it's not 4K for one, and I really want to get rid of using a gimbal with it. And I think if I upgrade to I think it's the X-T4, not the X-T5 is the newest version, but it's a bit megapixel heavy, I think, for what I want to do. So the X-T4 has, by all accounts, brilliant in-body stabilization. You can handhold it and film without needing a gimbal necessarily, which is, I think, for me, would speed up the filmmaking process when I'm on the bike, because having to get off and then set the gimbal up and steady it and then film obviously takes a little while, and it kind of like kills the speed of what I'm doing. And with on the bike, it's always a trade of, if I'm on a trip, I actually want to get to where I'm going, and then anything that I can do to film and be quick about it is kind of important. So that would be the next thing would be to upgrade the stills camera, off bike camera. I mean,
in terms of the creation process, this is something that I really like about your videos is that you do, or okay, we have to look at the whole back catalogue, and it's really interesting to see how your filmmaking has developed. But it's clear now that you have a quite a well developed sense of storytelling. And to be able to tell those stories, you need to employ a variety of shots, B-roll or second camera, whatever you want to call it. And the other thing that you do quite a lot of in your videos is that you employ different positions on the bike where you mount your GoPro as well. A lot of this takes quite a bit of time, whether you're moving cameras around on the bike or whether you're setting up a B-roll camera and then driving up the road and driving back. How do you do this efficiently? What are your tricks that you've learned to be able to do this?
I think mainly it's just been trial and error mostly. And now that I know the positions where I can clamp things on the bike and it's safe, and I know that I'm going to get a good angle from it, I'm quick at it. But I think when you're starting off doing it, and it's a bit hit and miss. Sometimes you'll mount the camera somewhere, and then you get back and you realize that actually your foot has just obliterated the entire camera, and you can't see past it, or you haven't quite put it out far enough. But I think with a bit of experience, I now know the angles and positions on the bike to put it in. So, and I use ram claw mounts, so they're quite quick just to unscrew, and then I'll plonk it on another bit and screw it back on and just adjust it and try and be quick. But it does take time. It's not a quick operation.
And I think maybe one of the advantages of the Bonny is that you've got quite a few different mounting points that you can't maybe have on a plastic Fantastic.
Yeah, I found that. I mean, I rode a Triumph Trident recently just because my bike was in the shop again, and there was just nowhere to put the cameras onto, and it was like, oh, this is quite tricky to find places to do it. So yeah, the bike's really handy. It was one of the reasons I put the crash bars on it. It was not just for safety reasons, but I knew beforehand actually this is going to give me more options to hang cameras off on it. So yeah, that's all that bling on the bike's quite handy.
And in terms of setting up that B-roll camera so that you can have a shot of you approaching somewhere or driving away from somewhere, have you had any problems with people trying to steal your camera or anything like that, or get in the way, or because that would be my concern. I mean, I live in Germany, and you'd say, oh well, Germany's a really big place. There's no one here, but this is what I keep telling people: you stop in the middle of nowhere, and suddenly 5 seconds later, a German appears out of nowhere. So, have you had any issues like this?
Yeah. Well, it's exactly the same here. I mean, I can be in the middle of the countryside, absolutely. There's no one around at the minute. You put the bike across the road for a shot, and a car turns up, and you've got to quickly move. So we're exactly the same. But I've only had one. Well, to begin with, I don't shoot in cities. I tried it once, and I went to Manchester city centre. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning, thinking there'll be nobody there. I can get some amazing urban shots of the bike. It'll be brilliant, and it was still full of people, and it. I don't. Like I say, I don't know what Germany's like, but in the UK, if you leave something for more than 10 seconds, somebody's going to steal it. It's a sad reflection on our society that it's people like to take what's not theirs. So I don't tend to leave the camera anywhere where there's going to be people. So again, it's a happy coincidence that I enjoy riding in the countryside. So I can leave the camera at the side of a fairly deserted road if it's a slow road as well. I don't do it on the faster roads, just because it's a little bit too dangerous to mess around. But if I can find a slow road that's quite quiet, then I'll stop. I'll get the camera out and do all that thing. And I've only had one time when someone looked like they were going to steal my camera, because I was at the point of where I was turning around to come back, so I was out of sight, and I caught them on camera. Obviously, they'd seen my camera, and they hit the brakes, and they pulled over. It just looked as though I mean, perhaps they were pulling over genuinely, I don't know, but it seemed to me like they'd seen the camera, thought no one was around, and I think if I'd been more than 30 seconds longer, they'd probably had it in the car and driven off. But that doesn't happen that often. I think you just have to be careful with where you put your camera, and just try and keep it as people-free as possible, unfortunately, but that's the way it is.
Yeah. Beyond the obvious, for you, what are the differences that you experience between creating still images versus creating film? I imagine this is a big topic, but you've come from one discipline and you've moved into another, and I imagine those there are similarities, but big differences. Yeah, maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I naively thought there'd be a lot of crossover, like it would be, well, it's just using a camera, and I know how to use cameras. And I was surprised at actually how much I've had to go back and relearn. So I don't think I would go out of my way and say, and I don't think I would ever say at the minute that like, I'm a filmmaker, because I'm very much like learning at the beginning stages of figuring things out. And a lot of it's, I think it's just a different thinking process. So much to the point where I'm having to even relearn things like composition, because with the stills camera, I know what I'm doing. It's just natural to scan the edges of the frame and make sure that I've got my subject where I want it to be and do all that. Whereas I'm finding that when I'm setting up a shot, particularly with the off-bike stuff, I think because I'm so busy thinking about other things, I'm forgetting even simple things like composition, and having to relearn to do that and putting it into a sort of different thinking process has been surprising. I didn't expect to have to deal with stuff like that, but I've enjoyed it actually. It's been nice to sort of relearn a different aspect of photography and still be in the process of learning it. It's quite fulfilling to sort of learn something new and then put it into action and then actually get a better result on the end video, because I've listened to what somebody else has said. So it's been good. It's been surprising though. It's been surprising how different it is, given that it's essentially the same bit of equipment.
Yeah. To what extent do you pre-plan videos? Like, do you do storyboarding, or do you just sort of head out and capture something and then think, oh, I won't necessarily fix it in post, but I'll be able to generate a story out of this in post?
Yeah, there's no plan. I'm not a person that plans. I just usually have an idea of I'm going to go somewhere. I know that I need a beginning. I know that I need a middle, and I know that I need an end to the video. So those are the three basic things that I'm thinking of. But it depends on how I feel. I don't know, because usually when I go somewhere, I haven't been there before, so I don't know whether the roads are going to be fast roads. I don't know if they're going to be slow. So that will affect the pace of the video. I don't know whether by the time I get there, whether I've encountered, a lot of bad drivers and I'll just be in a foul mood by the time I get there, which colours the rest of the trip, because I'll be in a bit more of a somber, like kind of slightly irritated mood, and that will colour what I sort of film, or whether I've had a really nice ride and it'll translate into a much more sort of jovial, light-hearted video. But I can't control any of those things, so I don't try and plan it too much, because I really don't know what I'm going to get until I get there. And so yeah, other than those three things, I don't really know how I'm going to do it.
So still at this stage, because did you get your license in 2020? Is that your motorcycle license in 2020?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So you're still enjoying the thrill of going somewhere new, going on the bike. The thrill is in the ride. The thrill is getting somewhere, seeing somewhere different. So, and it's rather than, okay, I need to go out and make a video today. It's like, oh, I'm going for a ride. Oh, and I'll take some video when I go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm still, like I say, I'm in that mode of still going to new places on the bike, and it just being irrespective of making a video, it's just a fun thing to do, to go somewhere new on the bike and see what it's like. But yeah, some of the places I used to go in classic cars and stuff, because I used to just ride those for fun as well. But yeah, going on a bike's different.
Your videos are all typically sub 20 minutes, and many of them are less than 10 minutes. Is there anything conscious or any factors driving you about decisions of how long each film will be?
Yeah, I think there's a number of reasons for that, and some of them are to do with YouTube, and some of them are to do with my limitations in terms of editing, because this is something else that I'm learning still, how to edit. So I find for me, a 10-minute video takes me about a day to edit, which I'm sure professional filmmakers could knock that out in no time. But for me, it takes a long time to actually put it together and rewatch it and make sure that it flows as a story. And it takes me quite a while to get that right. But also with YouTube, I think, because YouTube's very much, you get rewarded for quantity over quality. So if I have a video that's 20 minutes long, if there's a reasonable way that makes sense to the story for me to split it into two 10-minute videos, then that's what I would do, because YouTube will reward you more for that. If you have 2 separate videos, 2 separate dates, you'll get much more of a sort of traction with that than you would with one 20-minute video. And because I don't post sort of all the time, it gets a little bit more important for me to try and segment the videos out if I possibly can. But like I said, most of the time it's just one trip anyway. It's there and back, and that tends to be about 10 minutes. And I don't think many people would tolerate a 20-minute video of just wheels turning on a road, even no matter how many different positions that you put it on. There has to be something else in it. I think 10 minutes is probably the max of what people will actually watch before they flick off to something else. And that seems to be working. That seems to be working okay for me. So I'll just keep doing that.
Yeah. Apart from your 2-part Snowdonia motorcycle camp videos, I think I'm correct in saying that most of your videos document what one would call a solo ride, just you and your bike.
Yeah.
First of all, what does that mean in terms of practical considerations? And then maybe I'd be very interested to hear what you think about riding solo, riding with a group.
The main reason that they're all sort of one journey trips, and it might sound a bit banal to some people, but it's because I have a dog, and I look after him. So I can't. For me, taking 2-3 days out to do a longer trip, which I could chop up into various days, it is quite a logistical exercise, because my partner, she works, so I have to try and work it out and make sure that someone's here to look after him, because most of the time it's me. So I really can't I just wouldn't do that to him. I wouldn't leave him alone for like a whole day if my partner Jen can't be back to look after him. So genuinely, it's because my dog sort of stops me from taking longer trips. I would like to, but I can't sort of leave him on his own. And as for riding with other people, it would be difficult to make the videos that I make the way that I make them with someone else. It'd have to be very patient, because I stop a lot. And even, I did the camping trip with my best friend. I've known him since I was 18. And even he was getting annoyed with me at the end of the 2-day camping trip, having to stop all the time, because and I stopped about half as much as I wanted to on that trip. So that just kind of confirms me that it's not really possible for me anyway, to do a trip with other people, because it's just, I'm patient because I know what I'm doing with it, but it's to expect somebody else to be patient, it's probably not that realistic, really. So and then also you feel a bit self-conscious about what you're doing as well when you have someone watching you all the time. I'd struggle to relax a little bit, and because I feel a bit daft sometimes, particularly with the off-bike stuff, and you're filming yourself getting on and off the bike and stuff, you feel a bit of a lemon, and having someone extra watch you doing it just ramps up that self-consciousness, and then you kind of don't want to do it, and then you don't do it, and then you get home and realize you've just not filmed a bunch of stuff that you wanted to, and it's not their fault. When I don't know, it's not ideal. So for me, doing it on my own is just the best way to do it, really.
Sure. And that actually leads me into another observation, which is that even though you were talking on camera right from the start of the motorcycling videos, recently you've taken to speaking directly to the camera more often than we've seen previously. So what's driven that, or what's encouraged you to do that?
I think I think it's I'm well, like most people, I don't really like the sound of my own voice, especially when you hear it back on recording. It just makes me cringe a bit. I don't like it. So that's the original reason for not doing it. The second reason is the style of video that I do. It's kind of a South Korean and a Japanese style of motovlog that I came across whilst looking for videos on the Inception T120, and I was like, oh, I like that. And they don't talk, but in their videos they usually have a much bigger emphasis on cooking for some reason, but that's part of their culture and they like that. But I like the whole attitude towards motorcycling and moto camping and the way that they do their videos, and that they often don't speak in them. And I really liked that, because it was just sort of, you can lose yourself a little bit more in the video when you don't have someone interrupting your brain with talking. And I like sort of the idea of just watching a video and pretending that you're the person riding the bike. And I think, like I say, when you talk a little bit, it takes you out of that. And then the third thing would be, I mean, here in the UK particularly, a lot of the sort of more established motovloggers do that whole camera on the chin thing, and they just talk, and you can be watching a video and 3-4 minutes into it, and honestly, they haven't said anything that was worth listening to. It's just they're telling you things that don't add anything to the video. Oftentimes they're telling you what road they're on, where they are, or what they can see. But all of those things you can just see by watching the video yourself. You didn't need them to speak.
As anyone knows who browses YouTube videos, motorcycle filmmaking often employs drone footage, and this is something you've incorporated into your filmmaking. What practical issues do you encounter when creating drone footage in the places that you ride, which is obviously in the English countryside or the British countryside? Sorry, I've got to get that right.
Well, I don't know whether it's the same in Germany or not, but the British drone laws seem to be in a constant state of flux. So when I first got the drone, I did it all properly. I got registered. I got my little pilot's license for the type of drone and the type of flying that I was doing. And then over the last year, I think it's changed 3 or 4 times, where it's really hard to keep on top of what I'm legally allowed to do and what I'm not. And then also I had not an incident, but I was filming in Wales, and I was filming over this lake, and it was very beautiful. And as I was bringing the drone down, actually I should say that all of Wales is military airspace, so there's no public planes, should we say? No public service planes are allowed, so it's just military jets. Anyway, so I was flying this drone over a lake, and you are allowed to fly there. I checked everything, it's fine. But as I was bringing the drone down, 2 single-seater planes jetted through, and one of them went right in the space that I had the drone, and it put the fear of God in me just for a second. I thought if I'd had that drone up 10 seconds earlier, he'd have hit it, and I shudder to think what would have happened. I'm sure his plane would have gone down. I would have had a death on my hands. And I think since then, it's really put me off flying the drone. And I know that the chances of that happening are really small, but because I was literally 10 seconds away from killing someone with it, I don't know, I've been very reluctant to put the drone up again, which is why the most recent videos, I haven't bothered with it, because it's just been, I keep getting flashbacks of literally the drone wasn't even on the floor. It was coming down, and this sort of propeller plane just zipped through. And I was just like, oh my God, that could have been really bad.
Yeah.
So things like that you can't mitigate for has sort of put me off a little bit. I will get back to it, I think, but I don't know how I develop a situation where I can fly it safely, sure that I'm not going to, unless I just don't fly places like Wales, which is a shame because it's a beautiful landscape. But yeah, and also I keep crashing them. I had one which was run over by a van and he crushed it, and then I dropped one into a lake, and then the last one I think I just hit a tree with it. So I've been through 3 drones. I'm averaging 1 drone a year at the minute, and they're not cheap. So yeah, I'll try and get back to them, but
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah. How important is accurate sound capture for you? I mean, there are endless videos on YouTube with people trying all sorts of different combinations of microphones mounted on different parts of the bike in different positions, different actual mic capsules. People, because people obsess about the sound of their motorcycles. That's why they buy different mufflers and things like that.
Yeah.
So there is a genuine interest in capturing the right sound. What have you done? What sort of practical issues have you encountered? Do you think you've mastered it, or is it an ever-ending sort of challenge?
Yeah, I think capturing audio of the bike has become my nemesis of making videos. If it's the biggest sort of complaint, the one that I get most often on the video is people saying they want to hear the bike, which I totally understand because my bike, all bodies sound great. They've got a really nice rumble to them. But I've had such problems trying to get decent audio on the bike. And I've tried lots of different ways. I'm going to try a new thing, which is having wireless mics. But previously I've tried all sorts of things, just having mics strapped up different places. I've tried recording the bike whilst it's not moving, but just getting the engine noise and then trying to stick that on over the top of moving footage to kind of fake it, but in a way that it sounds good. But that was just too much post-processing work to make it convincing. So yeah, it's really hard, particularly with my bike, because it's not a very loud bike. I think if you have an outrageously loud motorbike, you can just shove a microphone in your backpack or something and you'll pick up the engine note, no problem. The problem that I've got, because it's not very loud, if the mic is set, like, you know, the gain's set enough to capture the sound of the exhaust, it captures everything else as well, including the chain noise is really loud. The actual mechanical noise of the engine doesn't sound very good, and it'll capture that. There's everything else in with it. So at the minute, I'm hoping what I'm going to do with these wireless mics is that I can have the mic set in one position, and then the receiver will be on the GoPro. And then it won't matter where I put the GoPro; it'll still capture the same audio from the same position. And maybe, with a bit of luck, I'll get some decent audio, because I would love to have decent audio on the videos. At the moment, I tend to just cut it out completely because it's just too much wind noise, and nobody wants to hear that sort of horrible distorted noise for 10 minutes. So I just chop the noise out at the moment. But I'd love to get to a point where I can put it in, I can add it in. But we'll see. It's been a struggle. It's really hard. And again, that's probably been a surprising thing to learn about video, is that the most important aspect is the audio, which I would have thought would have been the visual side of it, but actually no. You can make something look really nice, but if the audio is terrible, the video is terrible. So yeah, it's been a struggle, but I'm learning. I'm getting there, hopefully.
In terms of the overall production process, if we talk about pre-production, which seems to be quite a minor part in your case, no criticism, the shooting and the post-production, which part do you most enjoy? Which part is the least enjoyable for you?
I think some of the least enjoyable bit, which would be, I think when I'm starting to edit it, because I have a whole big bunch of footage all shoved in slightly different bins on DaVinci Resolve, and I don't know exactly which way the video is going to go. So there's a bit of stress at the beginning, thinking, have I even got a video with this? And it's not until I start making it that I can sort of work out where it's going to go. So that's always a bit stressful, and I probably usually don't feel good about making it until I'm about halfway through the video and I feel like I've actually got something, and I don't know that until I'm there. So there's been lots of times where I've spent half a day editing and just binned the whole video because it just wasn't getting anywhere. And the most enjoyable bit, I guess, is the end result. You know, when you finish, you have a video and you think, oh, it's quite good actually, and you watch it and you've managed to make something quite nice to watch. I like that. I like the end result. And in a weird way, I like the chore of making the video, but it is a chore. It's a bit like ironing. I quite like ironing. You know, like ironing clothes. Like, if I have a big stack of ironing, I really like doing it, but I hate it at the same time because it's like a chore. So it's just not the same thing.
Yeah, I think would it be with ironing? It's that tactile that, you know, once you're comfortable and you trust your iron and you set up and it's all good to go, it's quite satisfying because it's like mowing a lawn. You can see what you've done, right?
Yeah, and you end up with a bunch of untidy something and you change it into something that's organized and good. And I sort of feel the same with the videos. You know, you're out foraging at the beginning, gathering together clips and things, and you put it all into a bundle, and it's a mess. It doesn't make anything, and then you work on it a bit, and at the end you've got something that makes sense, and it's quite enjoyable to watch. And I like that bit at the end, and I do in a sick sort of way enjoy the process of doing it, but it's still a chore.
And where does the music fit into this whole process? Do you start with the music, or do you start with the visuals first of all? Where does the music fit in? How much time do you spend selecting music? Is that something that you really enjoy? Is it driving the story, or is it something that is a bit of a chore?
No, I enjoy it. Well, I enjoy it to a degree. I think, particularly with YouTube and obviously all the copyright laws and stuff, you're kind of restricted with what you can legitimately use. So I use Epidemic Sound at the moment, but I also used Artlist previously. And it is a chore going through trying to find music to put to the clip. And I usually, how I normally do it is, as I was saying before, you know, when I go out and I don't know exactly the mood of what I'm going to capture, but by the time I get home, I kind of like know how that ride was, whether it was a fast or slow one, or happy or annoyed one, and that will inform the kind of music that I look for, and then I'll pick the music that I think matches what I'm trying to make, and then that music informs the pace of all the clips and the cuts of the video. So usually the music comes second, I would say. Capturing the footage getting the feel of it, then the music, then making the story to the music. Because usually I try and make it to the beat, or the cuts, so that it's just a little bit more watchable. It's sort of, you can sort of zone into the song, and the clips happen on the beat and stuff. So or moments in the videos happen to the beats, which I quite like doing. Sometimes it's quite subtle, but I like to get that in there, and then that makes the sort of the whole pie, well, not the pie, the sausage of the video.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, the music's really important, and then so I can spend hours sometimes just going through tracks on Epidemic Sound until I get the one that just, you get that moment, you go, oh, that's the one, that's the song I want. But it can take a while trawling through, because it's a bit limited, and I don't always want to use tracks that I know that other YouTubers have used recently, because you hear something, you go, oh, that's a really good track, and then you realise that someone like Freddie Dobbs has used it, and it's like, well, I can't use that this week because he's just done the same thing. So yeah, it can take a while, but it's worth it. It's worth the effort of finding the right track, I think.
Do you ever hear a piece of music, or maybe have a particular favourite piece of music and go, commercial music, and think, oh, I'd love to make a video to that piece of music?
No, not really. I think the music, as much as it informs the sort of feel and drive of the video, I think once you start getting into using commercial music, I think people would be watching for the wrong reason. They might be watching because they like that particular music, and the music track then becomes the focus rather than the video. And I don't want that to be weighted that way. I want the video to be the main thing, and then the music just a secondary driver of how you feel about it, but not necessarily the main thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. In terms of the overall process, is there any part that you feel you struggle with and are most self-critical of and looking to or wanting to improve?
I'd love to be able to present better, to speak without so many ums and ahs, and just be a little bit more flowing with that. That's something I would like to do more, because I feel like the whole talking aspect is something I'm going to continue to put into the videos more, or at least certain types of videos, and I'd like to be better than that. At the minute, I hate doing it. It takes me about 50 tries just to get like one sentence out, which is quite a chore to do. But the more I do it, the better I'm going to get at it, I assume. So that's quite difficult. And I don't know, the whole being, I don't mind filming the bike, and I don't mind filming when there's no one around, but that whole subconscious thing of filming when there's people around and getting over it's quite difficult. I think because I'm used to, when I'm photographing people, you say you're photographing a model in a public space, it's not a problem because everybody's looking at them. You're just the photographer hiding. You're behind the camera. No one's looking at you.
Yeah.
But when you're filming yourself and you're aware that people are sort of driving past or walking past, and you think that they're thinking, "Oh, look at that plonker doing something for Instagram," and they're probably not thinking that at all. But it's because I think that when I see people doing that, it just makes you a bit. That's hard to sort of cut that out of your brain. But again, it'll get better with time, I suppose. Hopefully.
So in terms of YouTube and your experience with YouTube, as I said earlier, you've got over 100 videos on your channel at the moment, plus a few shorts as well. Based on responses from YouTube viewers and in terms of view counts and comments and likes, dislikes, what have you discovered works and what doesn't work?
I think just trying to make videos that you would watch yourself, I think, is probably what works. I mean, and also being aware of what's already been done. I think if you go, I see a lot of people trying to create a YouTube channel when they're on a motorbike and they do a camera on the chin and they're just talking, and I think that whole thing has been done, and it's being done really well. And I'm sure, Jeremy, you guys have your own sort of YouTube motorbike celebs who do that. We do in the UK. There's very specific people that do that, and they have gigantic followings. And you're sort of trying to compete with them. I think maybe don't do that if you want to have a successful channel. Which is part of the reason why I don't really do that, because it's there are people already doing it, and they're doing it far better than I could do it. So I'm just going to do something a bit different. And I think it's that difference that sets you apart a little bit, and then that's maybe why people subscribe and watch your videos, because it's not the same thing. So I guess try and do something different, but but also try and do something that you would watch yourself. Again, like I took, as I was saying, a bit of inspiration from the sort of Japanese and South Korean motor vlogs to make mine, because that's what I like watching. And there's not that many people in the UK doing it. So, I guess like any artwork, you see something that you like, you take an inspiration from it, and then you try and change it enough that you're not just outright ripping off somebody else's work. You've put your own spin on it, and then you try and make that your thing. I think that works. And engaging with people on YouTube, I think, works.
I wanted to ask about that because you, from what I have observed, you've been very diligent about responding to people when people make comments, and I think, that must take a lot of time. But you seem to be very good or very conscientious about that.
Yeah, well, I try and I may change my mind if the channel ever gets to a point where it's massive and I've got 100,000 subscribers. Perhaps then the chore of it will be too much. But I think for now, it doesn't take a minute to reply to people, and I think I'm of the opinion personally that no reply is still a reply, and usually quite a rude one. So if someone takes the time out to leave me a nice comment, I'm going to reply. It takes like 3 seconds to reply to someone to say thanks. And like I say, for me personally, like when I've commented on some other YouTubers' accounts and not had a reply back, I felt a bit sort of affronted, like, oh, it would have only taken a second to say thanks. But then that if you do that, I guess that person feels a little bit warmer to you. They've got a reply, and they might well stick around for another video. They might hit the subscribe button because they know that you're not, you're an approachable person. You can talk to this person on screen, whereas some of them, I think, are a little bit unapproachable. If you don't get a reply from someone who's, even smaller channels that are smaller than mine. I mean, I'm not going to name names, but there was one, and I left a couple of comments, and he had like 3,000 subscribers, and I'm like, oh, you're not getting that many comments, that you're swamped. You could reply to me, and he didn't, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I clicked unsubscribed. So there's that like moral side of it, and then also you've got to think about what the YouTube algorithm wants. If you boil it down to say there's 2 channels, say there's only 2 channels on YouTube, and the algorithm has to decide which one to promote. Is it going to promote the channel where the owner doesn't reply to people and try and get a conversation going in the comments, or is it going to promote the one that does? If you're a programmer, you're going to program it for the one that does, because that's going to be more engaging for viewers, which means YouTube's going to get more advertising, they get more money. So you're the one they're going to push. So if you're looking at it, just in pragmatic terms, if you want to get your channel to grow, then it makes sense to comment to people, to reply. That's my thinking anyway. And it's a nice thing to do. It's just a nice thing to do.
Sure. Again, from what I've observed, is that the overwhelming, in fact, I don't think I've ever seen any negative comments. Do you ever get frustrated that you're not getting critical feedback in terms of, and not negative feedback, but critical in the sense of, oh, have you thought about doing this? Or I really like what you did there, or something that is maybe stimulating for you in terms of how you might do your videos in the future?
Well, I do get them now and again. Usually, as I was saying, the most one that I get is that people would like to hear the engine note. People saying, "Oh, it was much better if you could hear the engine."
Yeah.
Probably the second one after that is people saying that they would like to hear some talking in the video, just some talking, which I get, because I think people like Thomas, who you've interviewed, or Andy Mancam, who seem to have hit the right amount. They don't unnecessarily talk, but they do talk to give you context of what you're watching, which I like. So I get comments like that, which I totally understand, and actually I like that, because it lets me know what people want. And the rude comments, quite honestly, most of the time I find the rude comments quite funny. I like the people that go out of the way to leave something that's a bit rude, because it's, mentally challenged people are quite interesting to talk to. But yeah, in terms of getting actual film critique, I don't know that most people that watch YouTube are probably that knowledgeable that they could offer much. I did have one chap who was quite rude, basically just deconstruct an entire video, and I thought, wow, this would be so much better if you'd have made all the same points but not been rude about it. But as it turns out, I did listen to what he was saying, and I tried a lot of the things that he was talking about. For example, he was talking about in videography about only having your shutter speed double your exposure, which I don't do. And I tried it, and for YouTube, it looked rubbish. But I tried it, and I took it on, but I just wish he'd have been a bit more polite about it. So I do get them. I do get them. Not often, but I do get them.
Right. In terms of the channel and your plans, or what plans or hopes do you have for the channel? I know a little while ago that you actually put a piece to camera where you sort of actually you revealed it was quite a personal piece where you talked a little bit about the fact that what works, what doesn't work, should this be just pleasure? Is it a job? You seem to be not having an existential crisis with YouTube, but you were pondering some things and out loud to your audience as well. So where's your thinking with the channel now in the future?
Well, I think one of the things that I've noticed with a lot of the bigger channels is they're often fronted by people that are either retired or fairly independently wealthy, in that they've retired early or they don't need to work. Whereas I've been self-employed for 10 years, so my brain is very much of the mind that any day where I'm not working is the same as I'm losing money. So any day that I'm out on the bike or spend a day editing is a day where I'm not earning a wage, and I have a mortgage, I have bills to pay. So all of what I'm doing on YouTube, it has to replace a day's worth of work. I can't just do it for fun. And so I think that's part of my sort of troubles with YouTube, is that, the amount of money that you actually earn from YouTube is shockingly low. And I the more that, I don't think YouTube's going away anytime soon. I think it will become basically like another TV channel for people. Because it is for me. I'll browse YouTube for an hour or two, just watching different things. But the difference between what, say, programs on Now TV or Amazon get paid to what your average YouTuber gets paid is a vast difference. And yet both channels are providing audio visual programming for entertainment. We're all doing the same thing, but the money that you earn from YouTube is tiny. So I think, I was just thinking about in terms of trying to explain to people why you have advertising and why we need it, because it's not something that I like doing, like selling to people, because I'm not a salesperson, and I don't like being sold to either. When you watch a video and someone's like, oh, in fact, I saw one that's quite funny recently, and it was someone, he was talking about how he'd just broken up with his girlfriend. He was very sad and he was almost crying on camera, and then just at the end, just when I was having some sympathy for him, and he went, oh, and I've been having telephone counselling, and if you need telephone counselling too, this is my discount code. And I was like, oh, you ruined it. Like I was with you, I was feeling your pain, and then you threw in the discount code right at the end, and it sort of ruined it. So I kind of like, I don't want to go down that sort of really ingenuine, that's not a word.
I think it is
disingenuous.
Well, I could be wrong.
Disingenuous.
Yeah. I think that's the word. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I am going to promote something, it's basically because I like it, and also I need the money in order to keep doing the thing that I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. It's YouTube pays nothing, and it shouldn't be about money, but it has to be. It has to be to a degree. And I think that's, unless you're retired, which a lot of them are, and I totally get why they do it. But if I know what I earn from my channel, and I know that the videos punch above their weight for the subscribers that I've got, and I know how little I earn. So some of these channels that are doing it, you're thinking, how is this worth it in terms of just financially worth it? Which is one of the reasons why I have a shop and I sell bags, because I'm trying to make this whole thing a thing. Because like, as I was saying in the beginning, I have to think about this in terms of, on that day I could be at the studio actually earning some money. And I have to justify that to the missus as well, to say, I've not lost money by doing this today.
Yeah.
So that's it. It's just a practical thing with you making videos. There's a cost.
Getting all philosophical, for a second as sort of I wrap this up. Does filmmaking get in the way of a decent ride for you, or does it extend the pleasure of that ride?
Oh, it definitely gets in the way. It's hard to get places when you're filming, especially if you stop as much as I do. I understand a lot of these channels that do just the helmet cam and talking, because they can actually get to where they want to go. That the ride is first, and the making a video for YouTube comes second. Whereas I try and make the video come first, and the ride comes second. So it definitely gets in the way of actually getting places. But I don't mind so much. It's I don't like rushing places anyway. So I'm never really in a vast rush to get somewhere. So if I've got the time to make a video, I'm not trying to speed off somewhere. So the whole process I enjoy. But I do quite often go out without any camera gear, just to enjoy going out on the bike. Because I don't want this to be too much of a job, and then I'll end up resenting the bike and stuff. So I think it's important to make sure I have those days where I just go out and ride like a normal person. But yeah, definitely gets in the way a little bit, but it's not too bad.
Sure. And finally, who in the sort of video filmmaking space do you particularly admire, or who do you take inspiration from? And that could be motorcycle filmmaking or just other genres as well.
I think there's one guy that I really like, and I think YouTube is almost behaving criminally in not promoting him, because he gets no exposure, and it is called Uncle Longbeard. And he has a great channel, and I like how he edits them. He talks funny. No, he talks funny. He talks in an amusing, entertaining way, and his videos are well put together, and he goes on amazing trips, and they're useful as well. Like, if you want to do the same trip, usually you'll be able to work out where he's been, and you can follow the same thing. And it's almost criminal how much YouTube doesn't push his channel. So I really like. But he was one of the channels that before I got a bike, I used to watch his channels anyway. And then when I started, I was like, well, I want to do videos like that. I want to do videos where people can enjoy the ride as much as anything else. I'd say Andy Man Cam's another great one. I like listening to his videos. He's very witty to listen to. He doesn't talk unnecessarily in them, and they're really well put together. So he's another guy that I watched before I got a motorbike and started a channel. And then there's one video that really got me thinking about doing YouTube, and I can't remember the name of the guy that does it. I think it's called Nat Geo or something, and it's the Lost Boys Cafe Racer crew, and I think they're in Mexico or something. And it's a fantastic video. It's only 3 minutes long, but I love it. I must have watched it about 1 billion times. It's a fantastic video, and it's sort of this sort of modern day ton up boys, and it's a crew of bikers all on like cafe races and stuff. And it's got an amazing soundtrack to it. It's just really, really well put together. I think sometimes when I'm feeling a bit disheartened about what I'm doing, or I need to have a rethink, I'll watch that video and be like, yes, that's what a motorcycle YouTube video should be. And that's kind of like what I want to get to, if I can get there. Also, there's also a group called Twin Thing Custom Motorcycles. You don't put videos out very often, but their videos are brilliant. Every time they put out a video, it's like a mini film. It's fantastic. So definitely they're one to sort of aspire to be like.
Well, Matt, this has been great. I've really enjoyed talking with you. Thanks so much for being my guest on Real Riders. Other than your YouTube channel, Classic Rides, is there anywhere else that people can find you online?
Just Instagram, just at Matt McFadden. Instagram, it's not called Classic Rides. But other than that's it really. I'm not all over the internet. But thank you for having me. It's been nice chatting to you, Simon. It's my first podcast. I hope it's been okay.
Oh, it's been great. Thank you very much. That's it for today. I look forward to watching more Classic Rides videos as they emerge on your various online channels. Thanks very much, Matt.
Oh, thanks, Simon.